welcome or welcome back. I'm Maggie and this is Maggie May's Crochet. This is the second video in a series where we are learning to crochet for the absolute beginner. The first video I went over a few things to introduce you to the yarn, how to hold the yarn, how to make a slip knot. And in this video I will be showing you how to create a chain. I wanted to review a couple of things before we get started. Number one is the hook. I wanted to introduce some of the terminology that's used with a crochet hook. This part is the hook. This is the part that you'll be pulling your yarn through your loops with. This is known as the throat, and this is the shaft. This shaft or working part of your crochet hook is the part that varies in size. When you have a pattern that tells you to use a particular size crochet hook, this is what they're referring to. This indented area here is a great place for you to grab hold of your hook. It gives you good stability, and we discussed in the last video how to hold the hook. Some people prefer to hold it as a pencil. Some people like to hold it kind of like maybe you're holding a butter knife. But whatever way is the most comfortable for you is the one that works. Another thing I wanted to mention about yarn that I did not in the last video is that if you're going to be doing a project where you'll need more than one skein, it's really important that you look at the lot number of your yarn. We discussed some of the information about what each of these symbols means on your label, but I don't think we talked about the lot numbers that are also found on your yarn. The reason this is important is if you're going to be using more than one skein of yarn in your project, is that even though you can buy yarn from the same manufacturer, for instance, these are both Red Heart, these are both the color Camouflage. However, there are different lot numbers, and there's a pretty good difference between the two skeins of yarn. You can see the colors are a little different. The texture of the yarn is different as well. So if you were making a project that required more than one skein of yarn and they come from different lot numbers, it could make a pretty big difference in the end result of your project. So I just wanted to point this out, that even though the same manufacturer, the same color of yarn might be very different if they come from different lot numbers. So always check that when you're purchasing your yarn, you're getting from the same lot. Another thing that we talked about in the first video was how to unwind your yarn, or how to draw the yarn from your skein. A lot of people, especially in the beginning, just will start their yarn from the outside and start drawing from it, and that will end up causing a big headache for you because the yarn will just get tangled and twisted and knotted. The best way to remove your yarn is from the center and just pull it from the center. It's made to come from the center. And as an extra little tip, when you are purchasing yarn, if you can find a skein that has a yarn that's poking through the end, buy that rather than one that the ends are tucked in, because that can be kind of a headache. The first video covered how to create a slip knot and how to hold the yarn. I'll review that very quickly. To create a slip knot, you can take your yarn, wrap it around your finger, pull it through your loop. Or you can create a slip knot by making a figure 6 and bringing the top of the 6 down and through the loop that you created. All right, so we will put our slip knot on the hook. You'll hold the end in your dominant hand, the hand that is holding onto the hook, and then the other end of the yarn is the part that attaches to your skein that you will wrap around your fingers. To create your first stitch, which is a chain, we're going to be creating a foundation chain. When you begin a project, you need to create the foundation or the chain that all of your stitches will be placed into. When you create a foundation chain, you don't want to make your stitches too tight. As I'm working, I'm going to be creating a rather loose chain. Again, that's because we're going to be putting our stitches into it for our project. Now, to create a chain, you're going to want to hold your working yarn at the slip knot here. These two fingers, your thumb and your middle finger, will hold on to the working part of the yarn, is this one, or this part that's stretched between your pointer finger and where you're pinching. As I create the chain, I want you to pay attention to the movement of my hook. This is the basic movement that's needed for virtually all the stitches that you'll make in crochet. It's called a yarn over. It literally means that you're putting the yarn over the hook, like this. Now, my hook is facing up, but I'm going to be turning it over so that the hook part is facing down, and it's going to catch that yarn. As it catches it, you'll pull it through your loop. And I've turned it back over so that it's facing up again. I will put the yarn over the hook, bringing my hook down towards me. It's grabbing the yarn and I'm pulling it through the loop. As I start creating chains, I'm going to be moving my thumb and middle finger up to hold on to the yarn or the chain as I've created it. So again, my hook is facing up, yarning over, turning my hook over, pulling it through the loop. As you're doing this, you want to kind of have a loose grip. I don't know the right term to use to describe this, but you don't want to be holding onto your yarn so tight that you're tugging and pulling. It should flow through your hand from the skein. It's constantly feeding and coming around. You'll feel it going around your fingers and pulling it through as you go. So I'll do that one more time, bringing my yarn over, turning my hook over, pulling it through. And as I do, you can see that yarn is being fed through my hand. And then I'm pinching up again. And it's just a constant motion of pulling and scooting with your fingers, really. Okay? You might need to pull and tug every now and again to get more yarn from the skein. And it's just a constant moving through. And you see the chains that I've been making here. As you're counting your chains, you should know that the first little bit here, this first knot on your chain, does not count, nor does the loop that is on your hook. This does not count as a chain. So on this particular piece, I have one. Let's see if I can get it so you can see better. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chains. Now, if I were to stop here, if I want to end my chain, all you have to do is cut your yarn and pull the chain through. Pull that end through the chain and it will tighten on the end and you have your section of chain. So that's it for creating your foundation chain. In the next video, we will begin by doing a single crochet.